faithfully conveying value and interpreting great books worldwide. Hi, this is Sally here with the Book Talk. Today, we're diving into David Attenborough's autobiography. If you're a fan of BBC documentaries, you know David Attenborough well. He's called the father of nature documentaries. Reportedly, he's the highest-rated male filmmaker on Dubon, with his top 5 works scoring over 9.7.
In classics like Blue Planet and Planet Earth, you'll hear Attenborough's wise and graceful narration.
Attenborough is also known as a daring and fearless explorer. For over 70 years, he's traveled everywhere, from snowy polar regions to the rainforests of Borneo in Indonesia. At least 20 species are named after him, like a butterfly, a Peruvian frog, a flightless weevil from Indonesia, and a parasite in Lake Tanganyika. Today, we're focusing on Attenborough's autobiography. First published in 2002, the English edition has been updated several times, adding his latest stories. The Chinese edition includes these new stories in 32 chapters and 475,000 words, reviewed by famous wildlife photographer Shi Zi Nam. He begins with joining the BBC in 1950 at age 24, covering his 50-plus years in TV, sharing behind-the-scenes stories from documentaries, and showing how science and tech evolved, how it transformed how we document nature and perceive our planet. The book has been widely praised since its release. Readers share that they grew up on his documentaries, though they note any shortcomings of the book. As one reader put it, the only issue is that it shouldn't be read silently. It needs Attenborough's voiceover. His TV career spans 3 distinct stages. Stage 1, the 1950s and 60s. He accidentally entered TV and created ZooQuest. Stage 2, the 70s to 90s. He introduced the renowned Life trilogy. Stage 3, the 21st century. He kept innovating with the BBC, producing classics like Blue Planet, Planet Earth, and Frozen Planet.
So let's begin from the 1950s to see how Attenborough got into television and started making documentaries.
David Attenborough, born in 1926 in Middlesex, southeast England. He grew up in Leicester, in central England. His father, Frederick, served as the principal of the University of Leicester. As the second of 3 boys in the family, Attenborough loved nature from a young age and often collected fossils and small animals in nearby forests and quarries. And in 1945, Attenborough got a scholarship to study geology and zoology at Cambridge University, earning a degree in natural sciences. After serving 2 years in the Royal Navy starting in 1947, he married Jane and worked as an editor for children's science books at a publishing house. But this job wasn't very interesting. One day in 1950, 24-year-old Attenborough saw an ad in the paper for a producer at a BBC radio show. He applied, but didn't get it, though it caught the eye of Mary Adams, who ran a talk show department at BBC Television. In 1950, TV was a rare thing. Attenborough didn't even own one, having only watched it at his in-laws, but he still accepted Adams's invitation. First as an intern at the BBC, then as an assistant producer, he dove into the emerging TV business. Not long after joining the BBC, Attenborough got a chance to appear on camera. His interview with British long-distance runner Gordon Peary went well, but Mary Adams decided never to let him on camera again. Adams wrote in a note that David Attenborough was brilliant and had huge potential, likely to become a top-notch producer. But she couldn't use him as an on-screen reporter anymore. His teeth were too big, so he focused on being an assistant producer. The talk shows covered a huge range of topics, from books and current events to science, gardening, and travel. Since there were no prior TV shows on these topics, the talk show department had no restrictions, and Attenborough quickly found his niche: animals. In 1954, he launched a series called ZooQuest, produced with London Zoo. Back in those days, major zoos expanded their collections not by breeding, but by sending expeditions to find and capture rare, unknown animals. Um, London Zoo dispatched Jack Lester, curator of reptiles, and Alf Woods, curator of birds. Jack was a brilliant animal catcher, while Alf had a rare talent for calming animals. The BBC sent Attenborough and cameraman Charles Lagos to film wildlife and capture Jack's animal catching moments. Back in Britain, they'd show animal close-ups in the studio. Each episode was 30 minutes long. In September 1954, Attenborough's team embarked on their first season animal hunt in Sierra Leone without detailed scripts or shooting plans. At each location, they'd ask locals about nearby animals. Soon, Jack captured nest birds, chameleons, pythons, and over a dozen emerald green starlings. But the season's ultimate target was an African bird called the white-necked rockfowl. Its Chinese name combines the character for eyebrow on the left and bird on the right. This forest-dwelling bird was extremely hard to find due to its bald head, earning it the nickname bald-headed rockfowl. They discovered the white-necked rockfowl's nest on a large forest rock and even caught one. To maintain suspense, each episode ended by announcing they were still searching for the white-necked rockfowl. Just before the fifth episode aired, Attenborough and Jack were waiting at a traffic light in their convertible when a bus stopped beside them.
Now, the driver leaned out and said to Attenborough, "David, are you off to catch that blasted white-necked rockfowl?"
Hearing this, Attenborough knew it was time to prepare for Zoo Quest's second season. From 1954 to 1963, Attenborough produced 7 seasons of Zoo Quest, traveling through New Guinea, Indonesia, Guyana, and elsewhere to film and capture wildlife. In Madagascar, Attenborough's team was tasked with retrieving non-venomous Madagascar tree bozas. Easy to catch, but some Malagasy people believed these snakes embodied their ancestors. If encountering a tree boa in the woods, these Malagasy people would carefully examine the snake's features. Like, does it have scars on its head or bumps on its body? Skin tone, dark or light, even personality traits like laziness, all could remind them of an ancestor. Then they'd ask the tree boa questions. If the snake sways its head side to side, people take it as a yes. Actually, most boas habitually sway their heads like that.
So getting a yes from the snake isn't hard.
Then, reverently, they'd pick it up and take it to the house where it lived in its past human life. They'd offer the snake ancestor milk and sacrifice chickens. It could stay until leaving voluntarily. Attenborough didn't want to bag someone's grandma. Luckily, this belief wasn't widespread, so snakes could be caught. But some animals like Komodo dragons were too big to bring back, also called Komodo monitors. They're the largest living lizards, fierce with saliva-carrying deadly bacteria. Attenborough's team built a simple trap in sandy river soil, baiting it with a large, stinking animal carcass. The Komodo dragon walked right into the trap, stared through the wooden slats at the humans while hissing, all captured up close by the cameraman. Back then, getting clear wildlife footage was tough. Slightly poor light ruined shots. Artificial light scared animals away. That's why early African wildlife films were shot on open savannas, the only places with enough sunlight. In dense rainforests, as cameramen said, you'd have to cut down all the trees. Filming caves was an even bigger challenge. In Sierra Leone, hearing of unknown bats in a cave, Attenborough decided to use US-made flares for lighting. A stupid idea. With the cameraman ready, Attenborough lit a flare. It hissed, blasting bright light that clearly illuminated the bats.
But it lasted seconds. The burning magnesium oxide created choking white smoke that quickly enveloped them.
Unable to see his team, he tossed the flare, but not far enough. Smoke kept spreading as panicked bats flew out of the cave. Thousands of them, leaving the echolocation less humans inside. That flare burned for a full 2 minutes, and Attenborough felt like he couldn't breathe. Only after the flare died out did he and his companions cough, gasp for air, and painfully crawl out of the cave. As for the bat footage, it wasn't exactly essential for the show anyway. Besides lighting, Sound was another huge problem for filming. In 1957, Attenborough and his team came to a gorge in New Guinea to search for birds of paradise. Birds of paradise, also called paradise birds, mainly live in New Guinea and nearby islands, with 42 species in total. Males have incredibly gorgeous feathers and perform courtship dances while displaying them. Europeans first saw these birds when Magellan's expedition brought back greater bird of paradise specimens in the 16th century. After catching the birds, New Guineans would typically cut off wings and feet to highlight the colorful feathers before selling them to traders. When Magellan inquired about them, middlemen swore these birds never had wings. They supposedly floated in paradise, fed on dew, and rested on their tails. People only discovered them after the birds died. So Europeans named them birds of paradise.
As a child, Attenborough read about them in Wallace's The Malay Archipelago and was utterly captivated.
Yet these birds faced massive hunting as local tribes loved using their feathers for headdresses. Additionally, many tribes used the feathers as currency. Before the 1950s, tribal wars were common, so people rarely left villages to hunt them. Thus, untouched forest corners provided fragile refuges for the birds' survival. But as law and order arrived, hunters no longer feared ambushes when venturing out, shrinking the birds' habitat further. At a major tribal celebration, Attenborough counted 500 dancers, each wearing headdresses made from 20 to 30 birds' worth of feathers. So over 10,000 birds of paradise died for human adornment. Survivors live deep in remote valleys where few humans go.
Attenborough and his cameraman wandered for days before finally filming the birds with local help.
They discovered one had briefly perched on a casuarina tree in the valley, so they preset cameras and waited. Early next morning, as dawn broke, a splendidly feathered bird of paradise indeed flew to the tree. It leisurely preened its feathers with its beak.
When sunlight flooded the valley, the bird suddenly lowered its head, raised crimson plumes high on its back, danced while fluttering about, and let out excited shrieks.
Backlit, the film only showed its silhouette, and since TVs were black and white then, viewers couldn't appreciate its true beauty.
The camera noise was so loud, Attenborough barely recorded two call types: rapid wah-wah repetitions and wah-wah-wah sequences.
He had to loop these two calls together in the film. Despite unclear footage, the show is well received. They even got a letter from a bird call expert. This expert, Attenborough's former zoology teacher, first congratulated him on airing the courtship dance, then asked if he'd noticed the calls strictly followed patterns, either 2 calls or 3, never alternating consecutively. The teacher considered this extraordinary and urged Attenborough to publish a paper immediately. Well, the Attenborough had to awkwardly explain in reply that it resulted from looping the recording. ZooQuest's original host, Jack, fell mysteriously ill after Sierra Leone and later died. Hosting and animal catching duties then fell to Attenborough, who'd take favorites home before sending them to London Zoo. He once kept a lungfish, a freshwater fish that breathes through its swim bladder when water dries up. Once abundant on Earth, this living fossil was dug by Attenborough from a dried African swamp, wrapped in mud and tossed into water. A long, dark, sausage-like creature stretched out its body. This lungfish later appeared in one of Attenborough's programs, illustrating amphibian evolution. Attenborough also kept bush babies, small, furry monkeys with huge eyes and gentle temperaments. He'd let them hop around the house, but they had a bad habit, peeing on their hands, excitedly rubbing them, then leaving smelly handprints everywhere. Even regular disinfecting couldn't stop these furry creatures from redecorating, forcing a full renovation to eliminate the strange odor. By 1962, Attenborough had been in BBC's top producer tier for a while, creating programs on politics, humanities, and other subjects. He decided to resign and pursue anthropology graduate studies at the London School of Economics. But in March 1965, before completing his degree, he accepted an offer to head BBC Two, BBC Two was among the first channels with color broadcasting technology.
Attenborough designed BBC Two's schedule to differentiate from BBC One.
For documentaries, BBC One focused on neutrality and objectivity.
BBC Two featured more personal perspective documentaries exploring critical issues in depth.
In 1969, Attenborough became BBC's director of programs, overseeing both channels. But management wasn't why he entered television. He always longed to return to the wild.
When accepting BBC Two's leadership, he'd secured an agreement allowing periodic returns to field filming.
In 1973, Attenborough resigned to become a freelance producer. From then until the 1990s, he created the famous Life trilogy, starting with Life on Earth. Attenborough wrote the outline for this documentary series. Beginning with Life's origins, it showed how fish transitioned from water to land, becoming amphibians. These amphibians then evolved into Earth's diverse life forms. The documentary explores nature through rigorous, systematic methods, showcasing many overlooked animals like ocean sunfish and naked mole rats. After its 1979 broadcast, it became one of the most successful nature documentaries ever made. This 13-episode series, with each episode 50 minutes long, took 3 years to film and produce. The crew started from the Galapagos Islands, headed north to Alaskan tundra, south to Amazon rainforest, then to barren Patagonian steppe.
At each location, Attenborough provided on-camera commentary.
During their travels, they achieved breakthroughs like capturing the first footage of a living coelacanth, a living fossil considered the ancestor of land vertebrates. In 1938, South Africans caught a live 1.5-meter coelacanth, shocking the scientific community. Unfortunately, scientists couldn't examine it before it was gutted. Later catches occurred, but no one had filmed a live specimen.
Since most coelacanths bite at night, the crew took motorboats each evening to drop bait near Comoros.
Regrettably, deep waters and strong currents only allowed blurry, fleeting glimpses of the fish. Just as they prepared to leave empty-handed, Comorian fishermen accidentally caught a wild coelacanth, tied it under their boat, and brought it back for filming. The scene showed the large fish swimming weakly on the harbor floor. For many years after, this remained the only footage of coelacanths. Now, Life on Earth. 5 years after its success, Attenborough followed up with The Living Planet, also called Life on Earth. While Life on Earth focused on individual animals per episode, The Living Planet examined specific Earth environments and like deserts and how life adapts to such environments. In 1990, he released the trilogy's final installment, The Trials of Life, showcasing animal behaviors at different life stages. This documentary's success owed much to advances in contemporary ethology, animal behavior science. In the 1940s, during Attenborough's Cambridge studies, biology focused on lab work, dissecting animals, observing lobster and mouse hearts, or testing if pigeons could count or how fast rats escaped mazes. Observing animal behavior in the wild was considered naturalist work, not proper science. But students didn't know ethology was already emerging. Austrian zoologist Konrad Lorenz, a Nobel laureate, had discovered imprinting behavior through greylag goose studies, early learning patterns in animals. By the 1980s, animal behavior research became zoology's most popular field, with dedicated researchers tracking large mammals in the wild, recording every vocalization, body language, and interaction. These studies expanded our understanding of animals and deepened human self-knowledge. In his documentary, Attenborough, 60 Years in the Wild, he highlighted British scientist Jane Goodall's chimpanzee research. Though lacking university education, Goodall loved animals passionately. Since the 1960s in Tanzania, she studied chimpanzees, giving them human names, drawing scientific criticism for anthropomorphizing. Yet Goodall discovered chimpanzees make and use tools, like fishing termites with twigs. Later in the 1970s, West African chimpanzees were found cracking 2 nuts per minute using tools. Mastering this skill takes over a decade of learning. Chimpanzees now known to use 20 types of tools. In Ivory Coast's rainforests, Swiss ethologists Christoph Busch and Hedwige Busch shattered the vegetarian chimpanzee myth. They discovered our hairy cousins are predators who hunt monkeys. With Busch's help, Attenborough's team tracked a chimpanzee troop. This group had over 60 members. On the sixth tracking day, while following chimpanzees through forest, they heard a colobus monkey eating leaves in trees. The colobus emitted soft purrs while swinging between trees. Spotting the colobus, chimpanzee behavior instantly transformed. 6 males locked eyes on the canopy, tracking the monkey, while females and young followed. And after silently tracking for about 10 minutes, the chimpanzee's behavior changed again. 2 young male chimpanzees quickly and quietly climbed vines to the canopy, positioning left and right to intercept, while an older male rushed ahead and disappeared. Then 2 more young males climbed toward the canopy. The colobus monkey spotted them and fled. The initial 2 males suddenly shrieked, panicking the monkey into scattering toward the ambushing elder male, who leaped out, grabbed it, and bit down hard. Finally, the poor monkey was gutted by the male chimpanzee, with meat divided into small portions prioritized for the excited females who arrived later. Such dramatic scenes make documentaries compelling but have drawn criticism for being too graphic. But as Attenborough noted in his narration, the blood-stained chimpanzee faces may frighten and shock us. Yet we glimpse our ancestors' faces in theirs. We see teamwork's origins in their behavior, the same cooperation enabling humanity's greatest achievements. Beyond scientific advances, TV technology breakthroughs made the Life trilogy possible. One key innovation was the low-light camera. Remember what we discussed in Part 1? In the 1950s Zoo Quest era, dim lighting ruined footage. Since many animals are nocturnal, filmmakers previously avoided this. Artificial light disturbed them, preventing natural behavior. And low-light cameras capture clear images in near darkness. In The Trials of Life, one episode focused on animal communication. The crew filmed fireflies in Malaysian mangroves, thousands rhythmically blinking on branches like Christmas lights. Males synchronize flashes to attract distant females. Medical endoscopes also revolutionized documentary filming.
Endoscopes are lighted tubes surgeons use to examine inside the human body.
In The Trials of Life, filmmakers used endoscopes to capture unseen moments of African army ants. Every 2 weeks, army ant colonies pause to form massive balls under trees or logs.
Soldier ants form the outer layer, legs interlocked, jaws open, ready to defend against threats.
When the ball disperses, the colony moves on, with worker ants carrying eggs. Clearly, the queen laid eggs during the gathering. But what did the ball's interior look like? Nobody knew. The crew oiled the endoscope tube to prevent ants climbing toward cameramen's eyes, then inserted it into the ant ball. They captured workers linking limbs to build living chambers and corridors, and documented egg transportation. Later, endoscopes revolutionized another documentary by filming platypus pups undisturbed in their burrow. After completing the Life trilogy, Attenborough had covered natural history's 3 pillars: evolutionary biology, habitat-specific ecosystems, and animal behavior, but not life's foundation. The 1995 series The Private Life of Plants used time-lapse to make plants move like animals. Time-lapse works by shooting at 1 frame per second instead of 24 to 25, then playing at normal speed. This 25 times acceleration reveals plants sprouting, blooming, and fruiting in minutes. Computer-controlled motion rigs moved cameras 1 millimeter every 5 minutes along programmed paths. Rigs could position horizontally or at angles. They enabled seamless transitions from close-ups to panoramas, capturing giant Amazon water lilies' entire growth cycle in studios. These lilies have 1.8-meter leaves, strong enough to support a child. But some shots proved far less fortunate to capture. A photographer aimed to document meadow plants' spring growth. He secured a suitable plot, filled it with plants, and carefully enclosed it with plastic sheeting. The first 3 weeks went smoothly, with dandelions and others nearly blooming. But as weather is unpredictable, A sudden storm one night blew down the fencing, flattened all plants with torrential rain, ruining the entire shoot, forcing an 11-month restart. The Private Life of Plants won the Peabody Award, broadcast's highest honor. Entering the new millennium, Attenborough's TV career began its third phase. A key collaborator during this period was Alistair Fothergill. Fothergill headed BBC's Natural History Unit and had co-produced The Living Planet with Attenborough. Fothergill planned an epic marine documentary, inviting Attenborough to narrate. Blue Planet, released in 2001, achieved massive success. Fothergill's next achievement was 2006's Planet Earth. This became the first nature documentary, shot in HD, featuring revolutionary camera stabilizers. Before this equipment, wildlife photographers typically camouflaged themselves while waiting for animals. Bold photographers could track tolerant animals, but capturing sustained chases like hyenas hunting antelope required aerial shots. Yet, helicopters scared animals with engine noise when descending for clear footage. The new gyro-stabilized gimbal system mounted beneath helicopters, with telephoto lenses enabled high-altitude filming. Photographers controlled direction via joysticks while zooming details. While filming wolves chasing bison in Alaska, running animals remained unaware of cameras. Aerial photographers captured head close-ups of wolves at full speed. Ground teams used directors' aerial coordination to take shortcuts through forests, arriving ahead of wolf packs. As hunts climaxed with wolves dragging calves down, ground crews filmed nearby. After Planet Earth, 2011's Frozen Planet also achieved global success. Attenborough served as the on-screen host in this documentary, personally visiting both poles and writing the script for the final episode. In a sense, Attenborough's 70-plus-year TV career epitomizes humanity's exploration of nature and the unknown. From the late 1990s to early 2000s, he hosted documentaries like The Life of Birds, Life in Cold Blood, and Life in the Undergrowth, while pioneering 3D and other technologies. However, these documentaries also brought him controversy. After Life in Cold Blood aired in 2008, media revealed a spitting cobra was zoo-bred, accusing the scene of being staged. Attenborough noted in his book, "Absolutely correct, it was indeed a staged scene." This question actually raises another issue. How many documentary scenes are specifically arranged for cameras? But actually, BBC aired a 1984 special called The Making of the Living Planet. Attenborough himself gave televised lectures explaining essential documentary techniques. This naturally includes filming animal documentaries in controlled environments. To show scorpion mating, crews collect specimens in the wild, then introduce males and females in camera-friendly settings. For clear outdoor shots, crews may use food bait to lure animals into view. Similarly, cave scenes often involve building replicas and enticing animals to inhabit them. This approach captures the fullest picture of animal life, hence the most authentic representation. Attenborough admits viewers' concerns are valid. With realistic CGI, distinguishing truth from fiction is increasingly difficult. In such cases, audiences must rely on filmmakers' integrity and documentation to judge. Therefore, as documentary host and producer, he must continually defend his integrity and reputation.
Over Attenborough's 70-year career, wildlife documentaries transformed not just our understanding of nature, but our attitude toward it.
Many people grew up watching his documentaries, discovering the wonder and fragility of life on Earth. As for Attenborough himself, he still won't stop making programs.
The deepest reason is simply, I don't know any greater joy than gazing at the natural world and trying to understand it. All right, that wraps up our interpretation of David Attenborough's autobiography. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.